we had an announcement in Realty Times about the launch of your new TV station. Very cool. In fact, I'm going to turn it over to Saul now, and he can maybe dig into that a little bit.
Let's rock and roll, fellas.
Yeah, it sounds great. It's great to be with you, Cliff. And it's always good to see you. I know association executives, CEOs across the country, and I have a lot of favorites, but it's always fun to talk to you because you're on the cutting edge all the time, right? You're watching, you're seeing, you're trying to figure out how to take the assets of the organization and use it for the benefit of the members. And I was really excited to see this Florida Real Estate TV network thing. So tell us about that, because that's a really hot idea from where we sit.
Thank you. So this is a concept I came up with several years back, and it was from taking a good look at what was happening in our industry, in particular at the disruptors. You see, what I was noticing from a media and television standpoint, and I'm going to relate it here, is other people were telling our story. I would turn on a TV and look at a TV show, and I see people are searching for a house, then they're searching for a much smaller house, maybe a tiny one, then they're looking for one internationally, then they're flipping houses, flipping Houston, flipping Vegas, flipping San Antonio, flipping New York, flipping Los Angeles. Guys, it was 24 hours of MLS TV.
MLS TV, that's a great phrase. MLS TV. Years ago, I thought of something called MLSPI. MLS Private Investigators, because right. And when I heard you say this, MLS TV, it's like a light bulb when I say that's exactly what all these people are doing. They're imitating MLS TV.
Yes, they're taking. Listen, a house is chosen, a house is rehabbed, a house is sold, and then they put a storyline behind it. And I thought to myself, I've got 18,000 storylines. Why am I letting someone else tell my story? You see, that's where we have failed in our industry. We're always letting someone else beat us to the punch, telling our story. And the consumers end up going to that group or that person instead of us. And we sit there with our lips poked out, waiting for mama to do something for us to defend us in the industry. Forget that crap. Go out and do it on your own. Lift yourself up by your own bootstraps. So I took the concept of I can tell my own story. I don't need someone else to tell my story for me. Every realtor that comes in my building has a new story about a new client, about a new listing. Why, Saul, come on, help me here. Why let someone else make $1 billion?
No reason.
Hold on. And
their stories aren't even as good as your stories.
Exactly. And hold on. And then they look you in the eye saying, I'm going to go get your members to come on my show and tell their story and not give you one lick of credit for it. And you're going to like it. Now, how do you like that, Cliff? They look you in the eye, and there's certain words I can't use to describe it, but we had it back in the day. And then after they're through doing that to you, then they back off, take your money and make $1 billion doing it. So when I took a good look at that, as soon as I got to Orlando, I hustled down to the local news television network, and I got the executives in there, and I asked one question: is there still a thirst and hunger for local television shows? Meaning, if I created a show featuring our community, will people tune in? They said absolutely. And not only that, once I pitched the TV network on my concept, the very next week or 2 weeks later, so they brought an advertising group from the same network in from Houston, flew them in to hear my concept. Once I pitched it, they showed me and told me, Cliff, we want it. And then immediately I took it back. No way I'm letting somebody else make money off of my idea and concept. Once I knew from the experts that it would work, I said I'll develop it on my own. At that point in time, I started reaching out to producers, directors, people who worked at some major networks with shows that you see on TV, contracting them, asking them would they come in and do it for me. And that's where we shot our first sizzle reel well over a year ago. And the sizzle reel was to give me something to show our board of directors with regards to us creating our own television network and taking the money and our resources and building our own set of shows. And I'm no longer going to let somebody else have my show and then they go get their own advertisers. Well, what do you think affiliates are? What do you think partners are? I said, no, you're going to sell me the whole block of time. I don't want 15, 20 minutes for you to chop up and make a 30-minute show. Give me 4 hours on the network, and I'm going to run my own series of shows. I'll produce a show where we look for houses. I'll produce a show where we talk about international houses. I'll produce a show that talks about government and what we do. I'll produce my own show, and then I'll sell my own ads on my own network. I was taught by a pastor a long time ago. He said, Brother Cliff, there are two types of people. There are producers and there's consumers. Which one are you? Are you going to be a producer, or are you going to always be a consumer? Letting you're always hunting and looking. And so several years ago, I underwent a mentality change, and that's where the innovation comes from. No longer will I be a consumer. I will be the producer. In the Orlando Regional Realtor Association, we're going to produce. It's a different mindset. Let these other guys go out there and let somebody else tell their story. I'm going to tell my own story.
But so here it is, Cliff. We all know this now. Stories are it. And we've known this for a long time, but now even Instagram, and they're all about stories. So stories are critical. People like stories. And through an MLS as large as yours, an association as large as yours, you have, and everybody's interested in real estate. So the stories that revolve around all these different aspects of real estate that you're an expert on, and these people from the outside, they're not, they're novices. They're putting shows together and they're novices. The degree and the quality and the things that you're going to be able to do. I'm thinking about, this is part of the Real Estate Association of the future. It's telling the story of real estate to the world.
You. That's hold on. Okay. Saul, you got me excited here. Listen. Okay. Remember I told you that old story? Well, that old pastor taught me a couple of other things about reaching people. And one of the things he said, hey, Brother Cliff, he said, I'm going to tell you something else. He said, don't ever let anything come between you and God. I said, why is that, Pastor? He said, because anything that comes between you and God is closer to God than you are. Don't you ever let anything get closer to God than you. You have your own relationship. And I said, wow. Well, Saul, let me tell you something. Don't ever let anything come between you and your members. Don't ever let anything come between you and your consumer. Because, hold on, light bulb, anything that comes between you and the consumer is closer to the consumer than you are.
That's wisdom.
So what has happened in our industry? Aggregators, disruptors got between us and the consumer. And how did they do it? They told a more compelling story about their pricing. They told a more compelling story about their listings. They told a more compelling, are you following me here? But hey, guess what? We lost this battle long before the aggregators, because on television, people have been telling our story for well over 10 years, 15 years. So now, this is how the principle of running the Orlando Association and how we're going to govern ourselves in the future. No one else tells my story. No one comes between me and the consumers. If I have to invest every last dollar, our association will be seen by the consumers, and thusly our realtors, as the preeminent starting place for buying and selling a home, the preeminent starting place for buying and selling a commercial business. And we're going to do so because we're going to be the storytellers.
Yep. And you're going to be in everybody's life. So now you become the center of the conversation, right? And so you've got people are interested. This is going to build trust. This is going to build rapport between realtors and the public. It's going to, right, over time, there are all kinds of what I see positive, unforeseen consequences that are going to be derived from this.
Put something in front of them to get their attention and hold it, and then learn what they look at, see, we're doing something extra here. When people go to the site and they look at the show, not only are we getting them to watch the show, but we're actually also capturing their data. I'm capturing what else they're looking at. I'm capturing what they're shopping for. I'm capturing what other home. You see, I just created my own lead generation tool, because using predictive analytics, along with the fact that I'm holding their attention, I can, I'm giving away too much.
You're building consumer profiles.
Yes. It's a whole new, the next generation of consumer profiles, predictive analytics. All these things are happening in the background while we captivate them mentally and take back our place in front of the consumer.
Take back your future. I love it. Now, you think about being able to service them. Have you thought about a membership category for consumers at the association?
Many of them would love that. Hey, listen.
Well, who else supports real estate for property owners other than realtors?
No one. We are the beginning and the end, the alpha and omega, and we do nothing to cultivate the relationship and keep it going. But that's what the television is doing.
Well, now, if you told the consumer all the great things the association does, and that includes working with the government on behalf of the consumer and the property owner, that's a huge thing. And you guys, I think you're doing that too, right? That's a part of this.
Exactly. So we're gonna show the consumers everything that the realtors do. I'm taking the whole real estate lifestyle and encapsulating it into a television network, but not from the boring aspect that you would think. We're putting a storyline behind it. I'm going to put a storyline. When you look at what we ask elected officials on a government affair, I'm not asking the pansy questions about this or that. I'm saying, hey, look, how did George Floyd hit you? Hey, how did COVID hit you? Hey, what's going on with the highway? When are we going to get that back? Because that's what consumers want to hear. Well, what's going on with our roads? What's going on with our education system? How can we as realtors help? That's what consumers want to hear, the real deal about government affairs. And then when you look at Selling Orlando is not the crazy story of this and that. No, you're going to get a perspective of what the actual agents were thinking while they're talking. That's the side the consumers want. They want the reality TV side, not the, oh, it was great working with Jan and John. No, They want the cutaway that's going to eventually say, look, I knew right then that these weren't going to be good clients. We knew just then because they weren't serious about the home. And if you don't know that a consumer will sit and watch that 24/7, you're crazy. When they can see both agents saying, look, I wanted to ask them if they're pre-qualified, but I knew not to. When you start hitting and it's gripping and you're talking to them about the real process, you have people tuning in, watching it all night long. And then it's just going to be up to us to build enough body of work on the network to keep things going.
It's going to become entertainment. It's going to right. It's going to become entertainment, and people are going to watch it not because they're buying a house necessarily, because they're entertained. And while they're entertained, you're going to teach them something, and you're going to teach them something positive, and it's going to be about the industry and the people that serve them. And Cliff, this is a great idea, and even more so, the execution, as you know, that's the tough thing, and you're executing on this.
Right. So the execution.